Welcome to the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. I'm Easton. In this show, we explore the stories of relentless go-getters, uncovering the secrets behind their success. We talk life, work, and everything in between. The highs, the lows, and the grit it takes to keep pushing forward. Tune in and get inspired right here on the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Hustler's Handbook Podcast. I'm your host, Easton Johnson. Today's guest is owner of sports brand Precision Shots and the host of his very own podcast, Expensive Carrots, Anthony Elmore. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, my brother. How you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for joining us today, man.
Absolutely.
So, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, and where you come from.
Man, I'm Anthony Elmore. I'm big in got my hands in a bunch of different things. I'm a huge visionary. I think that's kind of what defines me. Like, I don't feel like I can be put in a box. I'm always trying to figure out what's next. Not so much from the aspect of money wise, but just living out a destiny. And kind of what I feel like God put in my heart to be able to do, so I got my hands. I was a youth football coach for 10 years. I love the aspect of mentorship. So that's what kind of got me into it outside of playing football, youth football in high school. And youth football was something I fell in love with, got attached to it, and just coaching up kids and loving on them, and that was huge for me. So if anything defines me outside of entrepreneur and visionary, it would be a youth football coach. Like, that's so inspirational to me. Like, the kids might need a coach, but I need them kids more than they need me, if I could be real.
Yeah.
So them is a couple big things for me, man. I'm a husband of 11 years. I hold that with high esteem. That's big time for me. Two wonderful and crazy little monsters of mine. I got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old that, man, I hold them with, that's my heart and joy right there. And man, a man of the community, honestly.
And so why are you so inspired to work with the community and put your foot in there and actually be a stepping stone for some of these kids and an inspiration for the young ones?
Man, to be honest with you, I was one of them kids. I was one of them, maybe, I guess if they put them in a box, high at-risk kids, if that's what you want to call them, or kid that didn't have everything he needed, or in a bad position, bad neighborhood kind of growing up. And, but it took for me to change my mindset. It took me to look at things a little bit different and not follow the crowd, not do what everybody else is doing. Not to feel like I'm better than everybody, but just to want to do more with my life, if I could be honest. That was big for me, not following the crowd, set the standard of my own life. I seen so much negativity growing up, and most of the time the people that got in trouble around me was the ones that followed somebody else, did what they thought was popular, or got influenced by somebody and ended up making the wrong move and maybe lost their life, or got sat down in jail for doing a crime that they never really wanted to do but got influenced. So, it really took a strong disciplined mind to not follow what everybody else was doing.
Was there any specific event in your life or anything that really got you to the point of being like, hey, I don't want to end up like some of the people I grew up with? Or do you feel just like mentally you've always had that mindset of like, I'm going to be somebody different?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think the second part that you said was probably more, they're both accurate, but I think best define me, the second part. Just seeing bad examples, there's only really two ways to go on to learn in life: is you learn by experience or you learn by example. That's what I always say when I talk to people. There's only two ways. You can learn by experience. You could go through it and endure it yourself, or you can learn by example. You can watch somebody else do it. I'd rather somebody else touch a hot stove and me learn from it than for me to have to do it. Some stuff is rocket science. Some stuff is just, hey, you just literally got to pay attention. You got to open your eyes. Sometimes you got to shake your perspective up just a little bit, and not just do what you want to do, but you got to have some self-examination in there also.
And do you feel like you had mentorship yourself growing up, or anybody specific that kind of helped you guide yourself in the right direction?
I didn't, honestly. Of course, I don't want to say I didn't, but in the area that I needed, I felt like I didn't have. For me, it was more so examples.
Mm,
Like a lot of examples would be like I seen so much of the bad,
mm,
that's what made me go to the good.
mm,
There's an opposite, there's a left and a right, there's an up and a down. Is what opposite are you gonna choose? You
mm,
just gotta make sure it's on the right path. So I seen so much that allowed me to know what to do and what not to do.
mm,
So it kind of worked out to the good for me. It made my life a little bit slower at the
mm,
time, because I didn't do it. Might not have been as fun doing what everybody else was doing because I didn't do it. So
mm,
it might not have been fun because I didn't follow the crowd. But
mm,
I felt like compared to a lot of my friends now, I'm in a different position. I'm
mm,
I'm I got more progress going on, and I don't compare my life or seem like I don't want to seem like my life is going better than other people because it's not. I'm a
mm,
human. Biblically it says it rains on the just and the unjust. So
mm,
don't matter how good you think you are, what status you at, like it's just gonna happen no matter what. There's bad things that's gonna take place and good things that's gonna take place. But for
mm,
me, as far as position wise, I felt like compared to where I am now, it would have been a whole lot different then if I would have did that. If I'd have
mm,
followed the crowd, or who knows how my life would have turned out. So
mm.
I can only thank God that I'm in the position that I'm in now. You can
Yeah.
always progress, but some things you can't recover from.
Hmm. Most definitely. And so, what initially drove you into the direction of entrepreneurship and starting your own business, and just pursuing that overall?
Absolutely. For me, ooh, really good question. I think as you kind of get out of high school and you're out of college, if people are fortunate enough to make it, or however their plan goes, you get in the working world and you get on the 9 to 5s, or you get on whatever schedule, and you quickly learn that you got enough to pay the bills, and that's really about it.
Hmm.
Like unless you're fortunate enough to be in a family that got money or whatever, but being in the state that we live in, it's kind of hard
Hmm.
to save and do what you need to do. So, the idea kicked like, man, I started with just a vision. Like I'm always around the kids, I'm always around the youth, trying to impart some wisdom and some guidance into them. Man, let's figure out how I can leave my mark on this earth. What could I do to stay connected with the youth, and
Hmm.
that maybe somebody else isn't doing, or if they are, I'm just gonna add to what they're doing, and
Hmm.
maybe just bring something a little bit different. So
Hmm.
that was huge for me, honestly. Just realizing like, man, I gotta have a different stream of income coming in. I gotta
Hmm.
have some creative methods in it. To me, it boiled down to what do I want to do with my life? How could I help create the destiny and the path that I really want for myself? And of course, it starts with a thought, but
Hmm.
you still gotta put pen to paper. Out when my
Exactly.
vision came, when God gave me the vision to do what I'm doing, is I still had to put pen to paper and figure out, man, what's the game plan? How do I take these next steps? How do I put my feet to the pavement, and how do I figure out how to go get it? So
Hmm.
it really was that was big for me. That was
Hmm.
huge.
And so, for the people who are listening and aren't familiar with precision shots, can you give insight of exactly what it is?
Absolutely. So Precision Shots, or PS, it started it's a sports brand is originally what it is, but it started off basically doing videography and photography. Like that's kind of where my passion is. I don't get a chance to do it as much, but it started with sports photography, like,
Mm,
or photography period, but sports photography to be exact. And just wanting to figure out how to capture images and just keep that memory alive.
mm,
And so like that was huge for me to be able to get in that. It was something that I felt like my heart was in and still
mm,
in, and I'm attached to it. And I just wanted to document that memory.
mm,
And so, along with the sports photography came videography.
mm,
Then I'm like, okay, I captured that moment. Now, how can we capture real life? Now, how can we
mm,
how can we put that in a frame? How can we keep that? Because that's an honor. Not
mm,
everybody is fortunate enough to live till they get 100 years old or 90
mm,
years old. But through videography, your life can still be told. Your story
mm,
can still be told. Your actions, and your presence will still remain. So I'm
mm,
like, man, let's figure out how to hone in on this. When when adults or when kids get older, they can look back on these memories and moments and be like, man, they can show their kids, man, this is how I was. Like, we got the cell phones, we became mobile, start walking around with them. And, I kind of got infatuated with the camera on the phone, the razors and all them little things. And like, man, something about the camera, more than anything else on there was like, figure out how to freeze this moment, figure out how to capture this. Like, this is significant, and so that kind of just led on to keep going. So PS, ideally, it became a sports brand, and just kind of took it and ran with it. Became a clothing line, and it's so many different facets. And we're still building on it. I got some more stuff that I'm working on. I can't officially get it out yet, but some more stuff's gonna be breaking soon behind it. But it's big, man. Like, and outside of the PS, it turned into a big YouTube channel. I'm fortunate enough now to have 50 plus thousand subscribers on it, which is a crazy blessing because I never thought that was possible. I don't even consider myself good. I'm just fortunate enough to and passionate enough to want to be able to capture the moment. So like that's huge for me because that represents my time, effort, and energy to be able to put a quality product out there and be able to capture moments that I call digital footprints. Basically, it just lets people know that they've been alive. This is their presence. This is what they did and who they are. So it's a true treasure to me.
And so since you've been doing this, what has been the biggest challenges for you with all of this? And we're in an industry in a time where it's so saturated. And now that everybody does have a camera, like you said, anybody can pull out a camera and be like, hey, I'm going to record something, edit it on CapCut and put it out. So what have been some challenges for yourself kind of maneuvering and getting your name out there, PS, that brand, and overall with the photography and the brand itself?
Absolutely. For me, some challenges. I would say before I speak on the challenges, I would speak on how good my circle was. How good my networking is. Not even how good I am in that aspect, but just the communication. The willingness to want to reach out to others. Man, how you doing? Check on people. And how could I invest in you? How can I sow in your life? How could I bless you? How could I do this? And so with that being intentional, trying to love on people, intentional wise, came relationships. You start developing stuff, and with relationships comes networking. You start to meet different people, different opportunities start to take place, and open doors start to take place. And hey, this person needs this person needs this, and now you become a plug for people. Now you become the asset for people. Now people want to book you, or people want you to come out and capture moments. And man, I hold that with so much joy. Like, that's a true honor and blessing. Like, I never take that for granted when somebody reach out and, hey man, or a kid walking in the down the street, and, hey, your precision shots or your PS, like, man, that melts my heart. Like, it was the first time I started, like, I still don't consider it big, but I never envisioned this thing to be like how it was. Like you said, it's so saturated, and Seattle is so small up here, so like I never envisioned that to take place, and even with the sports brand, it became national. I started traveling and kind of getting it in, flying to different places. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring my brand to different markets. I've been in South Florida a bunch of times, been in Georgia, Texas a bunch of times, so it's been a true blessing being able. But some of the struggles, man, honest, financial is always a struggle. If you don't got it, if I'm just gonna be real with you, we all want more, but we're limited, of course, with time and space. But we're also limited in resources too. If you're not fortunate enough to have it, so that's been one of the biggest struggles. If I had finances, that would solve the majority of a lot of my issues in those areas. I'll be able to purchase the proper equipment, what I need. I feel like I got decent enough equipment to get the job done, but you always want more, There's always more that can be done, or more to make things better. But I think there's always some resistance to you. you need people in the process. Sometimes people don't come through for you. Sometimes you have your hopes up and you depend on some people to come through for you. Sometimes you need some connections and you need some people to connect you with stuff. And sometimes it just doesn't come through, So there's sort of like what we talked about even before the show. There's always a little bit of resistance before something goes good. There must be resistance. There must be opposition always. It's for whatever the reason is, it just must. But it's on us to figure out how to endure. It's on us to figure out how to keep pressing and keep just grinding. And I call it chopping wood, basically. It's on us. We're going to give in or we're going to just go, And before we even go any further, first off, you know what I'm about to say. Thank you for everything that you've done for me, bro. Like, it might be small and significant to you, but it's huge to me, bro. We ain't going to get on here and explain because we know between with each other what you have done for me, but I want to publicly thank you, bro, because like that extra kick in the butt, that extra consideration, that extra time, even if it was just a quick message, hey man, I'm rooting for you, blah blah blah, I'm checking in up on you, I want to see how it's going, or how can I, if you need any help, like that's big time. You don't have a lot of people, especially in the podcast market, in the podcast game, there's not a lot of people that would take you under their wing and, hey, if you got a question, man, I'm here for you whenever you need me. So I must give you your flowers before we go any further, bro. I appreciate you like crazy. I'm rooting for you. You got my support in any and everything. I promise I'm purchasing your book. I hate that I didn't just yet.
You're good,
but
brother.
I promise I will be purchasing that book because I think it is so dope, bro. And I'm all for supporting what you do and anybody that's doing anything positive. And you got my support, bro, and I'm rocking with you.
That means a lot, man. That's seriously. And yeah, once you talked about your podcast, man, I was like, dope, you got something going. And
absolutely.
Yeah, anytime somebody got something they want to do, man, I'm trying to motivate them to keep going, man.
That's
nothing
so
to
dope.
stop us. So
that's
for sure,
so
brother. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like that's why we have that same type of mentality. Like you said earlier, like you're trying to help build other people up,
Absolutely.
And it's tough a lot of the times because when you pursue people and ask them, hey, how would you like help? Their first thought is, what do you want from me? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, no ill intent, man. I actually want to help you out. They're like, okay, I ain't got no money, bro.
Facts. They think you're trying to get something from them, but it's like, man, I genuinely love and want to help. Like there's no secret agenda at all. Like if I'm only gonna endorse what I believe in. I'm only gonna rock with and support what I believe in. So my energy is currency, bro. Like that's real. Like I only can give so much of that. That's valuable. We live in space and time. There's only so much of that we get. So I have to put that towards something that's positive. I can't waste time on the negative, like when crazy stuff's taking place in my life, am I going to continue to harp and focus on the bad stuff or am I going to just self-evaluate and, hey man, God, what's going on? Let's get to the next move. Like let me get out of my storm as fast as possible. So on to the next. I have no time to keep looking backwards. Like there's no progress in that. The only time you should look backwards is if you're looking at the progress you've made. That's it. I can't see what's ahead of me if I'm so focused on what's behind me.
Most definitely.
I can run into that stop sign that's in front of me if I'm looking backwards, run into traffic. So much bad can take place when you're looking backwards or when you're in a place that you're not supposed to be. Like that's big time for me. Like I'm a huge proponent of being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. I think a lot of bad stuff happen to people when they're in places where they know they're not supposed to be at that time. Like I'm a huge proponent of that. Like if you say you're gonna do something or you're gonna be somewhere, honor that. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens when people don't honor that. I don't know what it is, but it's something significant about being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. Like I don't know if it's destiny or whatever you want to call it, but I'm a huge proponent of that. Like I believe it, man. I just believe in being that. I mean, look at how many connections you can lose or you can make being at the right place at the right time. So the opposite works the same way also. If you're where you're not supposed to be at the wrong time, something that was meant for somebody else could be meant for you, unfortunately, you know, because you're at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah,
So
missing out on
I'm a
opportunities.
huge proponent of that, you know, like that's big time for me. If I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do something. I gotta honor that, you know.
Respecting time. And actually that was up to my next question, is being such a busy man, a family man, a father, how are you able to manage your time with your business and your family and children?
Ooh, this is a bomb of a question. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I don't know, man. My to be honest, my life is a freestyle, man. I'm a risk taker. Like if there's I define myself by taking risks, man. Like I think about the result of something, and then I think about what happens if I don't do that. So I'm huge on weighing my options. You know, if I feel like it's worth it, I got to dive into it. You know, but like just before diving in, I got to weigh the pros and cons. I got to make sure that it's worth the investment. You know, but I'm a huge risk taker. So with time, it has to be something that's serious. It has to be something where my heart's in it. I feel like I got to be led by God in order to move in that area. You know, I can't just dive into everything that I want. It has to be impactful. It has to be significant. It got to be in an area of making sure I mentor somebody or bless somebody, or it has to be in that type of realm. It has to be something that focuses on somebody else, because that's where I get my joy from. That's where I get my treasure from. Like I always say, it's better to bless somebody than to receive. You know, like I'm a huge proponent of that. I get joy out of that. Seeing somebody hurting and stuff, that doesn't help me. I want to figure out how could I fix their problem? How could I provide a little bit of relief from somebody? You know, that's what treasures me. That's what motivates me. That's what energizes me. Everybody else is not so much me. You know, like we talked just a slight bit about it. Boost yourself up. It's hard for me to do that, man. I want to see everybody win. You know, I don't. I already inside in my private life, I already motivate myself. I feel like I'm gonna win. Like I feel like God blessed me enough to make it and wake up every day. That's more than enough. You know, I'm healthy enough. I'm self motivated. I don't need anybody to talk me. But sometimes you have the moments where you get weak and your guard gets let down and you're vulnerable. So sometimes we need some Easters to come along and shake something up in your life and to kick you in your butt, you know, and hey man, I'm rocking with you. I'm supporting that. Sometimes you need that, you know, like I ain't that strong that I could just endure everything, you know, and think that I got it all together. That's not the case. But, you know, for the most part, I'm able to just motivate myself. But time wise, I don't have that answer, honestly. My life is like a freestyle, if I could be honest. My life is just kind of go with the flow, you know, like I'm not in control of anything. You know, I tell everybody I'm not in control of waking up in the morning. I'm just praying that God wakes me up every day. So I can keep myself on a selective schedule as far as important stuff. But for the most part, I got to freestyle. Yeah. I got to allow God to do what he need to do, you know, and I can't be so strict that, oh, I put the schedule together. I got to do this. Nah, that gives God no room to do what he need to do. You know, so I got to be able to just freestyle and just go with the flow. If it feels right or if it doesn't feel right, make your decision based off of that. You know, we all have that intellect. We all have that knowledge inside of us, that willingness. Like, hey, man, should I do this? Should I not? Like, you know when it's right and when it's not. You know, we all have that awareness.
Yeah. And so when for like a typical Saturday, because, you know, that's generally when most of the football games are happening. And when you do the videography, do you kind of just look at the weekend slate? Do you kind of have an idea, you know, going in the week prior, being like, hey, this is a big game, whether it be Little League or semi-pro? Do you kind of have that kind of planned out, you know, weeks ahead? Or
for the most part, it's kind of a weekly thing, weekly, every 2 weeks, something like that. You know, when high school schedules drop, I try to compare a lot of the top teams, see who some of the games of the week's gonna be. For same with youth football, you know. But for me, it's still like a freestyle. Anything could change, you know. So like when football season hits, it's crazy busy for me. Thursdays is high school, Fridays is high school, Saturdays is youth football, Sundays is youth football. Like my life tends to revolve around football and serving people when it's that time of the season, you know. So it makes it tough for sure. It's a huge sacrifice on my family, you know. They're not always with me, or they're not really with me, to be honest. The majority of the time it's just me, but I just feel the significance of being out there, and my family, and I'm grateful that my wife understands that too, that
Mhm.
this is my passion and where my heart is, and she doesn't hinder me in that way. She doesn't we have our little friction in certain areas when I want to fly across the country and
Mhm.
capture some stuff, and maybe it's not the right time, but she understands where my heart is. She
Mhm.
understands and knows that I'm committed and I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to be where I say I'm going to be, so she
Mhm.
doesn't have to worry about me doing anything stupid because I honor that,
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative for that. I make sure to let her know, hey, ahead of time, man, I'm grateful because you don't have to let me. I can do it on my own. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong.
Yeah.
I don't need anybody's permission.
Mhm.
But as a husband, you want to make sure that there's peace inside of your house also. You don't want
Mhm.
no chaos. You don't want the enemy trying to come in and sow bad seeds and put something in
Mhm.
your wife's ear, or
Mhm.
mind or anything. So, but that comes hand in hand with the way that you live. If you live on a regular basis, and live out what you're supposed to be, there won't be your wife won't worry about anything. There's
Mhm.
nothing oh, he's gone again. He might be doing this. No, we don't even operate like that because
Mhm.
I do what I say,
Mhm.
and that's just what it is. Like, I'm a man of that. I stand on that. Is there
Mhm.
opportunity to do dumb stuff? Absolutely, no matter
Mhm.
what it is. But I wholeheartedly believe in who I am and who I serve as a great God, that, hey, man, stand on business. Do what you say
Mhm.
you're going to do. Be the man that I created you to be.
Mhm.
Be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there, and you ain't got to worry about nothing bad happening. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's easy, in situations like that. It's easy. I don't have to worry about getting influenced because I'm
Mhm.
not going to be in places where I can be influenced.
Mhm.
Simple.
Mhm. And so how do you stay pretty goal oriented? Because you say you freestyle quite a bit. So is
Absolutely.
it more so of a staying consistent is the goal, or is it more so like, hey, my end goal is X, Y, and Z?
Absolutely. I think it's a little of both,
Mm.
with being a visionary, you write everything down,
Mm.
like some goals that you want to achieve. I don't really put a timeline on how soon I want to achieve them because I never know how the course of life is going to go,
Mm.
so for me it's just, hey, what do I like? What do I love? What could
Mm.
I go with? What can I go without? You kind of
Mm.
put stuff in its proper category, and I tend to do that with a lot of things in life, like even I'm a huge proponent of watching your circle,
Mm.
making sure the people around you are right, and taking inventory and taking note of your friends that surround you, because those could be drainers, those could
Yeah.
mess you up, those could be deterrents,
Mm.
those could mess your destiny up, just
Yeah.
being attached to the wrong people. I was looking at this example or talking about this example yesterday of two pieces of fruit in a basket. If
Mm.
one tends to decay and break apart, and that other one that's right next to it is attached to that same one, it's gonna
Mm.
start to rot and decay also. So I'm huge on not being connected to the wrong people. Got to
Mm.
be plugged in and connected to the right people. Otherwise, their nastiness, their badness is gonna spill out on you.
Mm.
It's a natural reaction. It's just gonna happen.
Mm.
So I'm huge in that aspect.
Mm. And so, like, being how busy you are, you're always on the go. You're going to games. You're
Absolutely.
traveling. When you are able to get the downtime, how do you generally unwind?
Family. Family's everything. Like,
Mm.
I don't consider the football stuff work. It is, of
Mm.
course, work, to an
Mm.
extent, but it's my passion. It's what I
Mm.
love to do. Completely different than a 9 to 5 or my regular full time job. We do that just to pay the bills,
Mm.
and to make sure that the family's taken care of and we got what we need. But outside of building your own brand, unfortunately, that comes secondary to full time jobs,
Mm.
until you can figure out how to role reversal and flip that, So, like, for me, to unwind is to check on my boys. How's my wife
Mm.
doing? How's everything going? What could we do that's fun? We try to hit these family vacations before football
Mm.
starts. We try to just stay active. Let's go out and let's hit the movies, let's have these date nights with the wife, let's do different things, let's go to restaurants, let's have this quality time, these bonding moments, like those are huge for me. Like I'm a huge proponent of family. That's everything. To me, I hold that with high regard. Also, that's big time. I'm nothing without my family. Like I can exist still. Don't get me wrong, but my family is what keep me rooted and grounded. That's what keep me motivated. That's what keep me going. That keeps that hunger inside of me. I have a business model that I always say that it keeps me hungry. Hungry but humble is what it is, but and that defines me. Hungry but humble. Like I want to keep getting it, but I'm not cocky enough to feel like I've arrived. I feel like I'm the best or none of that. I don't think that way. No matter how good I am in something, no matter how God gifted I am or what He gave me, I don't want to live in that moment where I feel like I'm better than anybody. Like that's never my goal. I'm always willing to connect with somebody or network. Man, let's communicate. My life is very intentional. Like I'd only do stuff if there's meaning and purpose behind it. I'm only gonna. I have time. That's all I have is time. So I got to be intentional with it.
And so I hear, like, correct me if I'm wrong, family and the love of the sport, love, helping kids grow. Is that what keeps the motivation going towards the success?
Absolutely, 100%. Just watching some of the kids that I've coached in youth football, I got a couple that are playing D1. I'm fortunate enough right now, two with the potential to go to the NFL next year, God willing, one at Oregon right now, one at Colorado. And man, that knowing the progress of knowing that I played a significant part in that, none of the hard work that they did had anything to do with me. They put that in. But just knowing, man, I was fortunate enough and blessed enough and honored enough to be able to play just a small part, a small part of commitment, a small part of love, just to show them, even if it's just the basics, that there's a coach out here that loves you, somebody that wants to be intentional. He's willing to put his family aside to give you guys a few hours in his day and then go home after that, but that's very fulfilling to me. Not so much of the potential of what can happen, but so much that just a small part played in somebody's life can change an outcome. Like that's so rewarding to me. Because I didn't have that when I was younger. I had when I played football when I was younger, I had coaches that was there, but they were there from 5:30 to 7:30. They weren't there on weekends, and they weren't there. Like there was a different type of intentionality then. I'm fortunate enough to realize, okay, I didn't have this growing up, so let me be this now to other people that may not have this, so you never know. As a youth football coach, my mission was to make sure that I can't save them all, but I can save the majority. I can reach out and extend my little to no resource of whatever I got or love or whatever it is to make sure that these kids are taken care of. That means if I got a feeling or insight that, hey, man, maybe this kid might not eat tonight. Okay, well, check this out. We're about to go get you some food before we go home. We're going to make sure you eat tonight. We're not going to worry about if it's going to happen. We're going to make it happen. So I've been fortunate enough to be in a position, man, with, like I said, even to limited resources, man, I'm going to do whatever it takes to help these kids and what I didn't have. And I would just want to be able to extend that to them. Is what it is.
And I think that's huge, man, because I think so many kids, especially in sports, when they have a coach, they're just like, okay, you're my coach and that's it, and not realizing like having somebody who's actually cares about you and wants more for you besides the fact of just football, because a lot of coaches generally just want to coach for themselves.
Absolutely. That's big. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you remember, is there a significant coach in your life that you remember that just had a lasting impact on you?
Yeah, it was actually my coach at Wazoo. He's just one of those guys that, like, he was honest. A lot of coaches, kind of, oh, well, you're not playing because of this or this. He was like, straight up, you're not starting right now because I have to prove myself that I can recruit, and I recruited these other kids right now.
Absolutely.
So it's nothing on you personal. I got to keep my job. And stuff like that, I'm like, dude, you didn't have to tell me that. You could just been like, you're not that good of a player.
That's real.
And
that's
he's
real.
just like, man, I got to prove myself to the AD, the coach, and
that's
you know, that's what's happening. You know, so he's
that's
like, you're
dope.
playing, but you ain't starting because of that reason. And I think that really opened my eyes, and I was like, man, I'm not even mad at you now. You know,
absolutely.
I was bitter. You know, I was bitter initially. So having somebody who generally cares about you and tells you the truth, I think, makes a huge difference. So
it does.
For sure.
It allows you. I think it breaks that barrier, it breaks that wall down. You know, it allows for, you know, it's just like I talked about. Like, in order to plant something in the ground, you got to till that ground first. You know, you got to break up those nasty roots. You got to break up and get rid of the negative stuff that was there first. Like, it allows you to bring. It basically brings vulnerability. You're able to be vulnerable now. I'm able to really share how I feel now that wall is tore down. You know, we want bridges and not walls. You know, like, that's what's gonna bring the unity. How can we walk together if we got a wall in front of us blocking us?
Yeah, and there's plenty of kids that little league that don't trust adults as it is already, and it's like,
absolutely, and
you know, they shouldn't have that feeling, you know, as a little kid where it's like, hey, I care about you, and they're like,
absolutely,
stay, you know, so
absolutely, and you never know what goes on behind closed doors, you know. So you got to as a youth coach or whatever area that you're in, mentor, you got to think differently. You got to think outside the box. You got to assess each kid different also. You can't treat, that's where I feel like a lot of coaches go wrong. They coach a team, but they coach everybody the exact same. You can't do that. You got a team full of 32 different personalities on there. The same message isn't going to resonate with every player the same way. You have to coach differently. That doesn't mean you got to be soft on some and hard on some. You just have to know how to reach them. You just have to build trust with them. Players that build trust with their coach, they'll do anything for. They'll run through a wall for. That's how you get them to play harder. Show them that you care. Show them that, man, coach ain't just, he just growling so much. He's just rah, rah, rah. He's yelling at me. He's cussing at me. He's doing it. No. Show him you really care. Go out your way. You know, that openness is going to let them know, man, this dude really care, man. I got to stop. I got to stop talking bad about him when I run these laps, when he got me running laps. Coach really care. Like, you know, like, that's how you build leaders on your team also, you know? Like, you got somebody fighting with you. If coach sing you on the lap, there's always kids that talk bad about the coach on that lap because they don't want to be running. But now if you got that one that's rocking with you, he's going to motivate others, man. Don't say that. Don't do that. You know, it's just like a cancer cell that gets into the body. If it's not corrected, it's going to spread amongst the body. You know, and it's big time. So you need to develop that type of leadership into your athletes. That vulnerability, that trust. They need to know, man, coach is riding with me. Coach got my back. You know, like, that's huge no matter what. Like, I always tell my players, man, whether I'm coaching you or not, man, I might not be your coach present, but you can always reach out to me, man. If I don't got it, I'm going to try to figure out how to get it for you. You know, and that's a for life type of thing. That's just not, oh, because I don't coach you anymore, I don't want nothing to do with you. No, this is a life thing. This is a relationship thing. I took on this position to be intentional. I took on this position to be impactful and to care and to that's me. That's who I am. I don't want this thing to just go away. No, this is a for life thing right here.
To be available for
absolutely, 100%. When ain't nobody else there, I want to be that one, you know? If it's 2-3 in the morning, hey, coach is coming. You need me, I'm coming. You know, like that's what makes this thing real. This is outside of the 5:30 to 7:30. This is what's real right now. Coach, we ain't got no groceries over here, man. Man, well, you got some now. Let's go take care of that. You know, like, and I'm not sharing none of my business of what I've done for kids and all that, but like, that's what it's about, you know? Like, taking care of them, because they're never going to forget that. They're never, you don't do that to get something. Because for me, the getting something is, man, this is so fulfilling, man, that I'm able to meet it. I'm able to meet a need. A kid didn't have something, or his family didn't have something. I'm fortunate and grateful enough to be able to provide that for them.
A necessity,
you know, like,
too.
That's rewarding and fulfilling to me. That's the ultimate treasure.
That's huge, man. I think just going above and beyond for these kids, and you know, they realize it. So I commend you for that tremendously, man.
Appreciate that. That's big.
I wanna go back to Precision Shots and
Yes, sir.
your YouTube and 50,000 subscribers. So obviously you
Shoot.
have a lot of videos and a lot of work you put into there. So how do you think you were able to achieve that milestone of 50,000 people?
Man, that's big. For me, taking a risk.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was, man, okay, I feel like there's progress being made. You know, like I can see the constant growth, but I'm like, how do I get to the next step? You know, once you
Mm-hmm.
see no matter what it is, once you see a little bit of result, I'm gonna go back to this. I plant
Mm-hmm.
that seed in the ground and it waters and it gets sun and it starts to germinate and everything that needs to take place. Once I see something popping out of that ground, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of progress, oh, I'm amped up.
Yeah.
I'm motivated. I'm excited. Like you want more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was like, okay, well, it's kind of stagnant up here in Washington. You know, it's the same support, same followers, same subscribers, same this, same that. How could I take it to the next level?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so for me, it was like, man, let's travel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do something a little different. As long as it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't interfere with my local stuff and being able to support my own community, because that's first to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm rooted and grounded in Seattle. You know, that's never going to change. So for me, that's where my heartbeat is, Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always going to be there and that's never going to change. But for me, how could I increase more? How could I increase? How do I add more? You know, so for
Mm-hmm.
me it was traveling, honestly. I had to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to hit the national scene. I had to figure out how to hit the big national games and capture some of the best talent around the world, you know, and once again that came back to networking with people, reaching out
Mm-hmm.
to people and asking questions and learning who people are and, you know, really a level of vulnerability. You got to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there because you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, when you
Mm-hmm.
throw that fishing line out in the water, you don't know what's going to jump on that pole.
Yeah,
You don't
for
know what's going
sure.
to attach itself to, you know, so you got to figure out if that person's good, if that person's
Mm-hmm.
bad, if this person is trustable, you know, like you got to figure out certain things, but you have to put yourself out there in order for anything to happen, you know, or if
For
you want the
sure.
results that you want, you got to hands to the plow. You got to go get it, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not I've faced so much rejection
Mm-hmm.
that now it's like it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take that L to
Mm-hmm.
find out if I could break thugh that wall or not, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's big time. I
Yeah.
had to just launch myself out there and get connected with some people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like always say, how could somebody that's poor tell a rich person something?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice could a poor person tell a rich person? Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be in their position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like, hey, man, I got to cast my net. I got to go see what's out there, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
man, it once I hit the big national scene, like growth went even crazier. You know, like I'm able to capture some of the top talent and just watch and being amazed. Like you can tell which athletes are going to be Division I athletes, and
Mm-hmm.
see, man, these guys is going to be in the NFL soon, and it's just fun being on that level. But even locally, I'm able to be intimate with the players around me and be more intentional. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do that so much in the national scene because I'm only there for just a little while and then I'm
Yeah.
gone, so you're limited in what you can do, but it helps grow your brand also getting out of your own city.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people just see you as limited for what you're doing here, and sometimes you got to cast your net somewhere else also. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing
Mm-hmm.
wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you got to take the show on the road.
Yeah. And that was actually leading up to my next question, which, you gave some good advice for that. For somebody who's aspiring to get into the field of videography, photography, and the sports realm, what advice would you give besides, the whole networking,
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there, taking the L's? Is there anything else, any type of advice you would give to people who are just starting out
Absolutely.
with that?
I would say follow your passion.
Mm-hmm.
Before you have what you need, you should already have that vision of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like not saying have a vision that you're the best at something,
Mm-hmm.
because chances are that's not going to happen immediately. You got to work towards that success. You're not just
Mm-hmm.
going to be, some people are overnight success, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, but to be realistic, you're going to have to hands to the plow. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to grind. You're going to have to figure out what you need. So for me, it was like, man, I love photos. I love photography. I love
Mm-hmm.
pictures. I just love taking them. So then it became a step by step process. How do we keep evolving. How do we get to the next? How do we get to the next? How do we get to the next? You know, so I would say if you don't have a passion for something, don't waste your time on it.
Yeah.
You know, like be your time, you'll be intentional behind something that you like and something that you love and something that be able to see yourself doing it. If you can't see yourself doing it for the rest of your life, or that being one of your tools in your drawer, it's not worth it. You know, like it got to be something that you're just motivated to do. Something that, man, you could spend hours doing and it's not gonna bother you because you know this is what I want. This is what I'm hungry for. So even through college, like I knew sports would probably be something that I wanted to do. Now I didn't play it in college, but I was fortunate enough to take communication classes, and I'm like, man, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I want to be a sports announcer, but I want to be in sports. I want to do something. And then I just had this lasting love for just communications and just being around people and helping people, and it just kind of all tied in together. And then, you know, when coaching came, I was like, man, there's nothing better than this. And I don't care if I'm getting paid for it. I'm not out here for money. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just love people, bro. I don't know what it is. Like, I just felt like God gave people as a gift. You know, now there's good and bad people too. You know, don't get me wrong. I might love all people, but I don't like everybody either. Like, let's be real. You know, I'm commanded to love. I'm not commanded to like. You know, there's a big difference. So, you know, you gotta figure out who you can trust and who you can't. And you gotta know, like I told you previously, man, I'm a huge proponent of watching your circle. Like I've watched so many people go the wrong and negative route, being influenced by people that they think is their friend, but just really want what they have. You know, like I'm a proponent of that. Like you gotta take note, take inventory, evaluate what's going on in your life. Chances are your life could be different based on who surrounds you, who your influences are. Like, you got to be the one speaking life into people. If you got the wrong people speaking life into you, it's going to be trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. Real quick, I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to get into your podcast.
Yes, sir.
Expensive Carrots.
Yes,
Give
sir.
the listeners a little bit of detail about what that's about, and you know.
Yes, sir. Expensive Carrots, man. It's my newest baby, man. That I'm crazy excited about. It's basically just a bunch of dialect communication about life, about culture, about hot topics, and just about what's going on. You know, I felt like it's something I've had in my heart for like probably 4 or 5 years of wanting to do a podcast. But podcast wasn't super popular then, but I felt like, man, I want to get online and do a show. It started out at youth football. You know, that was my idea behind it, man. Let's do some pregame shows, some hype up stuff where we get some coaches online and let's talk about the game they about to have and get a little smack talk in and some excitement and a little of this, a little of that. So that's where the idea came in. Never pursued it, never knew the angles of how to get to it or anything. So kind of left it alone. And then fast forward a few years, I'm like, man, I bought this logo from a dope graphic designer online, didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And I'm like, man, this podcast is just hitting my spirit hard. You know, like I've always been the guy behind the camera and that's always been fine. But being in front of the camera is a different type of beast. Now it's just you and the people that's in front of you, whether it's 0 listeners or whether it's 1 million listeners. It's different. There's a different type of level. There's some procrastination in there. There's some fear in there. There's some anxiety in there. You want everything to be right, but sometimes that's not always realistic. You want everything to be perfect. It's not always going to go your way. You know, like sometimes there's just always that opposition in your way, and you got to figure out how to kick the doors down and get through it. You know, when you kicked me in my butt and was like, hey, okay. I was like, okay, now I'm good. I know what I need to do. I'm not gonna throw anything or anybody under the bus, but I know what I need to do. You know, like I gotta get this thing moving. Enough with the excuses and getting held down. I felt like my foot was being held in quicksand, if I could be honest with you. You know, I felt like there was just a bunch of procrastination. There was no movement, just a bunch of stagnation taking place. And I'm like, man, that's not me. I'm the go.
Yeah.
You know, I hate having somebody else in control of something, you know, like, and I'm at the mercy of something or somebody else. So I'm like, man, I got to figure out what it takes to get through this door and this hurdle and figure out how to progress. And so, man, with the podcast, like I love people so much. I'm like, man, I want to share my platform with people. I want to create a platform and figure out how can I use that platform to elevate people and what they're doing, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
like I want to be able to have a bunch of different guests come on that talk about um things of their profession, you know? So I want to have my barber on who is
Mm-hmm.
just so dope and so inspirational in my life. Like he's a treasure. Like outside of my dad, like he's been one of the biggest mentors and grooming me for 15, 20 plus years, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hey man, this what you should be doing, this what you ain't, and helping
Mm-hmm.
instill confidence inside of me and just barbershop talk, you know, like
Yeah,
you grow up on that type of stuff, like,
for
but you
sure.
really get to soak up game. You really get to
Mm-hmm.
soak up some jewels and some
Who's been
principles,
there?
you know, like
Yeah.
that's significant, man. That barbershop, like there's something special. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to have a bunch of different people on. I want to be able to have people that deal with at-risk youth. I want to be able to
Mm-hmm.
have people that from the homeless shelter and just different people like that work in different places and share their expertise and figure out how can we put their brand, their business, and what they're doing on a bigger platform and
Mm-hmm.
and figure out how can we all work together and network and connect. So like I'm huge with that. You know, I don't really want to use my platform for the negative. You know, I understand maybe that there might be some negative talks that take place, but I want it
Mm-hmm.
to be encouraging. I want it to be uplifting, and I want people to listen and be like, man, I can rock with this. You know, like this person's being genuine. This person is giving you everything that they got. They're gonna give you every bit of ounce of real. You know, they're not gonna fake it. Like I'd rather not waste my time on talking about something I don't know. Like I want
Yeah.
to, if I'm gonna be real with it, I'm gonna be real with it. If
Mm-hmm.
I got my name attached to it, I gotta
Mm-hmm.
be real with it. It gotta be real. It gotta be from my heart. You know,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise it's not worth it.
Yeah, for
So like
sure.
that's gonna be huge for me. You know, I got a lot of big time athletes coming on once I can figure out how to get them scheduled from different
Mm-hmm.
states and man, I just want to elevate this thing and really use my platform to elevate other people. Like I want it
Mm-hmm.
to be about people and their experiences, some dope testimonies of where people came from and how they were, but who they
Mm-hmm.
are now and how God just transformed them. And man, I just want this thing to be special, man. I'm so excited about it.
That's dope, man. And once again, you're trying to uplift others, man. And I feel like that's one thing we don't see that enough in general, and also in the Black community. You know what I'm saying?
Facts,
So just
absolutely.
being that reach out there to be like, hey, this dude's been grinding for 10 years, and nobody really knows about it, you
That's
know. And
real.
it's like just being able to give them that platform. Hey, 20 people might see it, but one or two might add to your clientele. You know what I'm saying?
That's
Or
facts.
so I think that's huge. Just putting people out there and putting them, giving them a platform so they can promote themselves is dope, man.
Absolutely. Like that's the goal for me. You know, I always
Mm.
feel like as long as I'm okay, I'm okay. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
don't need the glory. I don't need the spotlight. Like I
Yeah.
get joy in bringing it to somebody else. You know, I get
Mm.
joy in seeing other people smile. I know that hey, man, it's okay for them. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
life is already tough and stressful and hard and
Yeah.
you know, so like anytime we could do anything to bring a smile to somebody's face, or
Mm.
like I seen a post post on Facebook from one of my homeboys, and it was to the extent of stop being so selfish that you hold your compliments in to other people. You don't know
Mm.
how much that'll brighten their day up just by your compliments, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I was so rocked by that. I'm like, man, how many times do we want to encourage somebody or motivate somebody, but we keep it into ourselves because
Yeah.
we don't know what they might think or what they might say on the other
Mm-hmm.
end. But at the same time, on the flip side, you don't know how much that's going to bless somebody else and inspire somebody else, you know? So,
Mm-hmm.
like, we basically, it goes to the extent we got to get out of our own way. We got to
Yeah.
quit worrying about what other people think about us. We got to just
Mm.
act like
Yeah.
we got to get out of that quicksand, out of that procrastination, out of that fear, and
Mm.
just step on faith. You know, like
Yeah.
you just got to move on it. Like
Yeah.
whatever instinct you have, as long as it's respectful and responsible, man, shoot
Mm.
it out there. You never know
Yeah.
what's gonna happen at the other end of that. But
Mm.
because you're so fearful or you're so worrisome or or so you're critiquing yourself, or
Mm.
I'm worried about this and that. Like, man, that's what's stopping you from doing
Yep.
what you really want to do.
Mm-hmm. And
You
like
know,
what you brought up before, it's that, they hear one no and they're like, well, it's obviously not meant to be, versus being like,
quick to
dude,
give up.
there's how many people are on this planet? You know what I'm saying? It's
absolutely.
like, yeah. So
Absolutely.
I totally agree with that.
For me, I'm motivated by keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so positive. Like, my outcome is like, I have to be positive. I have to think positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's already so much resistance and negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why wouldn't I be? I don't want to be what is it? Pessimistic is the word. Like, no, sure. Man, I want to think the best.
Too many
I'm
of those.
Optimist. I want to think the best. You know, like, I'm an optimist, man. Like, no matter what my situation looks like, man, I serve like a dope God that can change that in a heartbeat. You know, so like, man, forget that, man. Like you said, if I could get so many rejections, I could get so many no's, so many this. Hey, man, what about that one that's gonna take place?
Yeah.
If I just focus so much on their resistance and their opposition that I just give up on my prize, no, I got to keep chopping wood. My prize is on the other side. Am I going to give up, or am I going to get that prize? You know. And so for me, it's just about being relentless. You know, I have a tattoo on my arm that's relentless forever, you know, and that's about God. But that's like the story of my life, being relentless. Like, forget about the no's, forget about that, forget about this, forget about that. No, keep going. Endurance. You got to keep going, you know, and that's huge for me.
Yeah. And like I was going to say early on, is when I first met you, everybody had your sunglasses on.
It's a blessing.
Like, everybody.
That's
and
a
I'm
blessing.
like, where is everybody's getting these dope sunglasses when I was playing flag football? Taryn hit you up. He's like, hey, I got my boy Ant.
Absolutely.
You came through, had every color possible.
Absolutely.
Man, but my point is, it's just like your grind. You know what I'm saying? People had your glasses on. All these teams got your gear on. You know what I'm saying? I still got the jogger fit from when we were playing semi-pro. You know what I'm saying? So, but seriously, like, it shows like the progression, you know, because a lot of times when people are putting themselves out, or a brand like that, you got 5 or 6 people on that brand. You know what I'm saying? And they're all out there doing it. But for you to do this on your own, you know, and putting that on your back and be like, all right, this is my brand. I know how I want to represent it. I know how I want to do it. And it's a grind, bro. Like, every time I've seen you, you're grinding. You got a camera in your hand. You want some glasses? Oh, I got some in the car. Literally. Every time. I asked you one day at a tournament, you're like, hey, bro, I got some glasses in the car if you want some. Yeah, you know, so it's just like you're always on the go. And it's one of those things, it's like you said, if you stay on this path of this grind, it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? And it already happened with these 50,000 subscribers, man. It's a sign that people are entertained and care about this. So
that's a blessing.
You're on the right path, man. And I love to see
that. That's a blessing. Sure. I appreciate that. That's big time.
Yeah. And so for our listeners who aren't familiar with you or Precision Shots,
yes, sir,
or your new podcast, how can they reach out, or how can they find you?
Absolutely. So I got a website, www.precisionshots, PRECISION, shots, SHOTS, one word, .org, not .com. Somebody beat me to the chase. They seen the value in it and bought it, unfortunately. But once again, precisionshots.org. You can reach me there. Facebook, Anthony Elmore. Facebook, Expensive Carrots or Expensive Carrots on Facebook. Instagram, Expensive Carrots Podcast. YouTube, Expensive Carrots Pod. Cast. And man, I'm whenever somebody need me, I'm ready to get after it, man. Like, I love people, man. I love life. We only get one, bro. Like, I'm not going to spend my days being so burnt out, being so negative, being so uninterested. Like, man, I love life, bro. Like, how can we not? Like, the creator gave it to us. How can we not? You know, it's just about reaching people and enjoying life. And it's not meant to be in isolation. It's meant to be lived out together, you know? So for me, I gotta be connected. Like, all my semi-pro bros, or all my bros that went to high school and played football or sports or played against, like, man, I love seeing people elevate. I love seeing people do their thing. I love seeing people provide for their family, or just watching the growth. Like, that's so inspirational. Like, I think it's so dope that you're doing that. You're leading a podcast. You're a dope author, you know, like these different things. Like, that's impactful. People don't realize, like, when your kid gets older or kids get older, like they're gonna, man, my dad was a grinder. My dad didn't just talk about something, and even with podcasts, like before I officially launched it, I took this course, was about an hour, and it talked about podcasts, and he kind of shape how I do it. He was like, man, look at podcasts as it's a interaction, but look at it from the aspect of what it's gonna do for you in a lifetime. Like it's a digital diary, is how he explained it. What you put out there is leaving for your kids to witness when you're passed on and gone. They're going to be like, man, this is my dad in a physical form. They're going to be able to see you and be able to hear how you talk, and they're going to be able to add up. Is my dad's life great, how he was on the podcast, or was he just opposite of that? And so for me, man, that was huge. So I shifted how I look at podcasts. I'm looking at it like, man, I'm leaving something for my kids. I'm spilling my heart out. But this is also something that my kids are going to look back, like my son was able to look on YouTube. Dad, you got your stuff on YouTube now, and see all that, like that type of stuff. He can go and show his friends, or I don't care about the views. Like that's cool and all that, but they're going to be able to see, like, man, this was my dad. Like they're proud of that. Like dad is a hero. Dad's on YouTube. Dad does X, Y, and Z. Absolutely. And in hopes to inspire them to keep this thing rolling too. In hopes to inspire them to speak life to people and be friends with people that are maybe friendless, or people that don't like other people. Man, friend those people. Like be intentional, show your heart. Like I want them to pick up my heart. I didn't have a lot of people around me that was like the way that I am. I had to intentionally do this. I had to intentionally not go the same route everybody else went. Like there's a reward in going a different direction than everybody else. There's a special treasure in doing there's no resistance in just doing what everybody else is doing. The hardest part is, man, I want to do that because they're doing it. But nah, my path is a little bit different. And I'm not better than anybody else. I want to encourage anybody, man. You guys can do this stuff too. You guys can pick up a camera and be way better than me in videography. Pick up a camera and be way better than me in photography. Pick up a mic and a laptop and a camera and be way better than me in podcasts. But you got to crack through that wall. You got to just do it. You got to get the vision and put the vision on paper, and you got to take the next steps and figure out how to walk that thing out and kick through that wall. When ain't nobody rocking with you and don't nobody believe in you, are you going to give up and tap out, or are you going to keep progressing? Are you going to kick through that door and go receive your prize? Or are you going to keep chopping wood? And it's really on you. Like there's moments, and I'm sure you behind the scenes, there's moments where you like, man, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. But that's when you're at your best right there. That's when it reveals what type of person you are. Are you going to give up and quit, or are you going to keep pressing?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, man, okay, let's come harder now.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about who's looking at the other end. All I need is that one person to be inspired. That one person that might be watching the Hustler's Handbook, and you speak life to them, and they were about to commit suicide, but they happen to turn your video on and sing you speaking life to them. And now all of a sudden that suicidal thought is gone now. They was maybe about to kill themselves, and now it's completely different. They inspired. You might not never even know, bro, that they watched your video. That's the beauty of podcasts. You never know who's going to watch your stuff and be inspired by that and change their position that they was in and go a different route. Like you never know who's on that other end. So like, that type of thing motivated me. That type of thing challenged me. Like, man, on your platform, speak life to people. There's already enough rappers speaking death, and speaking girls should be this way, and doing this, and X, Y, and Z. Speak life to people. That's what I want to do. I want to encourage people, and motivate people, and inspire people that it doesn't matter what your situation looks like. You could be better than that. You could rise up. You can do more. So like that's me. I want my life to be lived out. I want people to be encouraged. Like, man, this dude came from nothing, got nothing, but this dude just wants to see life, just wants to see the good in people. You just have to develop that relentless hunger. That it doesn't matter what anybody says about you. It only matters what God says about you. That's where people get caught up. They think it's just, worry about them. No, what does God say about you? As long as I'm empowered by God, I'm not worried about resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. The power of positivity, man. I think anybody who listens to this podcast or watches this video, they're going to know how positive you are. And I realize how big of a difference that makes for everybody involved.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I think, like you said, there's so much negative out there. When you're so positive, it's almost like against the grain. Like, why are you so damn happy? Why are you so positive?
It's crazy, bro, that you say that. People ask me that all the time. Like, I come into work and it'd be like 6:30 in the morning. I'm up just active. I'm like, man, I'm just motivated about life. You know,
so like I ain't got your ass
down. For real. Like, bro, why you talking this early? It's supposed to be quiet time. Like, bro, man, if you just knew what I do, like, everything is not going right in my life. Like, and I talk this way when there's pressure on the line for me, you know, or I got a weight on my back, bro. I have to talk myself through it. I have to motivate myself. I can't rely on nobody else to do it for me. Like, there's times where it will happen in your life, but I have to do it myself. Like, I have to speak life to me. If I'm going to do it to somebody else, I damn sure better be able to do it to myself. I tell you that.
Yeah.
That's the mark of wanting to be a real man. I don't want to just give out wisdom and guidance and understanding to somebody else. I better be able to receive that and accept that and take that too. I better be able to speak life to myself. I can't just speak it to my kids. I can't just tell them something I don't have no experience about. I got to be intentional. I got to show love in that, you know, and like, I want that to define me. I want my personality to be magnetic. I want people to be like, man, this dude is so different. Why is he like that? Like that. I care for people. That's why I'm like that. Trust me. Do I really want to be? Bro, I'm be real with you. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I serve a God that is so dope that wants me to be this way. Want more people. Imagine if we lived in a world of nonstop encouragement, nonstop inspiration, speaking life into people. Like, we listen to the music, and I listen to it a lot of time too, but it doesn't speak life and encouragement. No. If you're listening to non-secular music, if you're listening to secular music, it's going to speak. They're going to tell you what they want you to hear and what you should be. But you got to figure out and know who you are. Are you going to believe what they say about you, or are you going to believe what God says about you? You know, and you got to encourage yourself. You got to talk yourself to it. If that rapper just called you a B, are you going to live the way that he just called you? Or are you, man, this is not who I am. I'm going to do opposite of that. I want to be better. You know, and that one person can transfer that same positive energy to somebody else, you know? So I want my life to be magnetic towards people, man. I want to be a magnetic draw. Like, I walked into a bank yesterday and a banker I'd never seen before. She was like, first time she helped me for a second, and she's like, man, I don't know what it is about you. There's something so different, man. I feel like God's grace or God's magnetic energy is just all over you. Like, that was so inspiring to me, bro. I'm like, man, me? You talking to me? Yeah. Like, you were just helping me a second ago and didn't say anything. She's like, man, from the time you walked in the door to the time I'm talking to you now, I knew there was something different about you. I'm like, man, I just asked for basic service, bro. Like, I didn't come in there with no speech, no spiel. Yeah. I just came in being me, you know, but like, that was so edifying and motivating to hear that a random person who've never seen me, who I've never seen, we never talked before, never nothing, is just like, bro, there's something different about you. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it, but get better at it. Keep moving, get better at it. Like, that's encouraging to me, because sometimes you question yourself. Sometimes you don't know if, man, I hope I'm on the right path, you know? But the difference is, we know between good and bad. We know between right and wrong. So no matter if I'm doing it the way I need to be, I'm just going to continue to do positive until it equivalates and gets to where it needs to. But to hear that from a random stranger, bro, was, that just rocked me yesterday. I'm like, man, bro, like, God, thank you for that. Like, God, I questioned myself sometime too. Like, I needed that extra motivation. Like, okay, God, man, I can do better for sure, but this little reminder that you sent one of your daughters to speak life into me, and I'm normally the one on the other end speaking life to somebody else. This is encouraging and very much needed.
And that's the thing. Everybody needs their tank filled. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
When you're giving everything out to everybody else, you still got to fill your tank. So
that's facts. That's big time. That's huge.
So I think you know, that's just God helping, you know, just filling your tank, you know, because just spreading more positivity like you've already been doing, man.
Absolutely.
So,
that's big time.
I think, like I said before, man, like your power of positivity is going to go a long way. And like
Man, I
you said,
appreciate
I
that.
definitely think you are going to inspire a lot of people from this podcast, man.
Man, I
Like being
appreciate
completely
that.
honest, like people speak positive, but just you show it, man.
That's real.
You're no facade. You're not saying it for the podcast. Just every
Absolutely.
interaction I've had with you're happy. You got a
Man,
smile on your
I
face.
appreciate that.
You got a camera in your hand. You're not like, oh, I gotta do this.
Absolutely.
I kid you not. Everybody who's listening, like every interaction I've had with Anthony, he's been positive, man.
I appreciate that.
It's all real that you're hearing. So there's no facade about anything you're doing. So
That's
power
big time.
positivity goes a long way, man.
I appreciate that, bro, because my life is so opposite of that. I've dealt with so much of that. That's the reason why I am the way that I am, because I've dealt with the opposite of that. And I don't want to be what I've seen or what I endured. I want to be opposite of that. Like I said, not to be better. I don't want to feel like I'm better than any other human. I'm not. We're all in the same boat together. As long as I'm on planet Earth, I'm just like everybody else. No matter how much I love God, no matter how much nothing, like I'm just like everybody else, but I'm striving to do things a little bit better, striving to do things a little bit different, not to compete with anybody or be better than anybody. That's not the goal. I want to uplift everybody and bring everybody on the road too. So I don't want to seem like I'm better than anybody, because I'm not. But I want to progress. I want to stack good days on top of good days, you know? For me, that's what it is. I want everybody to thrive. I feel like there should be no excuse, and I'm going to be so real. There's too much money in the United States and in the world to have world hunger. Let's be real. There should not be, there's always going to be homelessness, but I feel like there's well enough resources to get people in rehabilitation centers. Like that's one of the goals of my life. When I figure out, whenever God blesses me or however it happens, I want to create a homeless shelter / rehabilitation center. I want to figure out how can we get people back on their feet, get people's life turned around, get their mental right. I want to be able to have job readiness classes in there. I want to be able to have counselors, doctors. I want all this stuff, a one-stop shop type of place to help people, help restore people and speak life into them and get them back on their feet. Because no matter how messed up or jacked up a person is, there's some type of good somewhere inside of them.
For sure.
They just need somebody to believe in them, somebody to come along and grab their hand and speak life to them to change the output of their life, you know, and I'm a firm believer of that. So I told myself, man, no matter what I seen, no matter how much negativity I dealt with or endured or been around, I don't want to be like that. I want to be different than that. I want to be able to speak life and love people, you know, and that's my heart. You know, I'm not always good at it, but I'm genuine with it. You know, I'm not always the best at it. I have bad days like everybody else too. No matter how positive I am, I have bad days too. You know, I'm a human, but I have to speak life to myself. I have to think positive. Like I'm a firm believer in I'm gonna win no matter what, because God won. You know, I'm empowered by God. I'm gonna win. It's just a matter of time of when. But until the end, I got to keep breaking down walls. I got to keep kicking doors down. You know, it's just a constant battle. I can't expect people to give me something. I got to go get it. Jobs ain't just flying around. You got to apply.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go get what you want. You got to attack the day each day. Put a game plan together and figure out how to attack it. My goal is to not work full time for the company I'm with now. My goal is to be able to wipe that out and do what my passion is, which is to motivate, speak life to people, podcasts, my sports brand, different things, different adventures. That's the goal, is to be able to scrap that, bring this over here, and this is what I can do, because I can be intentional. I can love people. I can give my time to people. I can't reach people and be effective if I'm stuck on the clock for 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day, 12 hours a day. I can't. That's 10, 11, 12 hours a day away from my family. Yeah. You know, like I want to be able to leave my mark while I'm on this earth, you know? So like I gotta figure out how could I free my time up. So I work on the side, build my brands, build my businesses, what I need to. They're far from where they need to be, but I'm constantly working, you know, like I don't want people to think like, oh, I create something. Sometimes you're going to have to start off from zero. Yeah. And it might be zero for a long time, but are you going to give up or are you going to keep fighting? You got to fight for what you want.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I think, you know, you're doing it. You're a living testament of what you're speaking, you know, and it's showing. So I'm super proud of what you've done, man.
And I appreciate that. That's love.
Yeah. And I appreciate you being on the Hustler's Handbook podcast, man.
Absolutely.
Like it means a lot, man. All you've done and taking the time out to be on this podcast is huge, man.
Man, I appreciate that.
I do have one final question.
So
with all the positivity, man.
Yes, sir.
Like,
shoot.
Like all the stuff you've been doing
shoot.
with the sports and working with the kids. How do you stay so positive being a fan of such a terrible basketball team?
I knew it was coming. That's why I wore the hat. That's exactly why I wore the hat. I said, I'm going to get him. I know what's going to get him. I'm going to make sure he has to look at this logo for every minute, every second.
Oh, I can blur it out.
Oh, yeah. I know. That's the scary part. I know. But hey, I'm going to enjoy the moment right now. Hey, I'm a huge Mavs fan, man. I've been a huge Mavs fan for 24 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I don't know, man. For me, of course, I love the Sonics. That's home team. That's rooted and grounded. That's what I love. But I wanted to fall in love with a team that was not good. I started liking the Mavs before anybody really knew them. Yeah. There wasn't no Dirk when I started liking it. Liking the Mavs. There wasn't no Nash. There wasn't no Luka. No, none of that. You know, I picked a team that was just trash. You know, we was fortunate enough to trade Robert Tractor Trailer from Charlotte and get Dirk. You know, and turned our franchise around. You know, and little by little we started figuring it out. So I've been a huge Mavs fan for a while, man. Like I love the Seahawks like crazy, but I love the Mavs like crazy. That's my team.
I see it. Yeah.
That's my team. I harass anybody.
I just had to give you a little crap. No.
Nah, I love it. How you feel about Bronny, man?
Don't get me started. I mean, I'm indifferent about it. I'm happy that, he's able to have this opportunity with his dad, but
absolutely.
I don't know.
We talked about it a little bit. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to fill up another hour of the podcast, but
it will.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys got your prize free agent draft pick.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. But on a serious note, man, I want to thank you again for joining the podcast, man. It means a lot. I'd love to have you on again sometime, talk a little more detail about your podcast, a little bit more about the sports, maybe chop it up about certain athletes that you think are going to excel within the next 3 to 5 years. I don't know, just something different, man. I love chopping it up with you. Your positivity is infectious, and
appreciate that.
I think you're doing great things out there, man. And there needs to be more people like you. And
that's love.
I just think listening to this podcast, you're really going to motivate a lot of people, man.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate your time, man. I'm excited. Yeah. First off, for what you're doing, bro, and I can't wait to see the growth and expansion and the hunger and the result. Like I just feel like you love people. Also, you're investing in people in your craft. You don't rush stuff. You're super patient and intentional about what you're doing. And I feel like, bro, you're gonna have a huge impact in what you're doing, no matter what the result is right now, bro. It gets greater later. And I feel like just keep hands to the plow, keep applying pressure, bro. And it's only gonna get like we have a vision of what we want to do, and it's not the final product. So like we just got to keep working at what we want, keep fine tuning. It's only gonna be great, bro. I can't wait to see the Hustler's Handbook. Like, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna speak life into you right now, bro. People are not gonna have the same access to you forever. I want you to catch that. People, I think you might have wrote a post. You might ask some people and come on the podcast, and there's kind of some resistance, or they don't want to, or some unsurety. That same access ain't always gonna be there. I promise y'all. Y'all better catch him and be intentional right now, because not to say he gonna shun anybody, because he's not that type. Yeah. But we'll never forget that. Like you guys just see the infant stages of what he's doing right now, but that same access ain't always gonna be there. Don't forsake what's in front of you and somebody trying to give you their time and reaching out to you. It'd be different if they reached out to you. You reached out to them and got resistance. It's different. That same access is not always going to be there. And I want you to hang on to that, because watch what's about to happen, bro.
I appreciate that,
It's only going to expand and be great. I'm excited, bro. I'm honored to be able to be tapped in and connected with you, and I'm looking forward to watching you grow and watching you do your thing, man.
I appreciate that, man. It means a lot. Seriously. Absolutely. Especially coming from you, man. Seriously.
I appreciate
You're a grinder. Well, thank you again, brother.
And, Stop, boy. Absolutely. You're more than welcome.
All right, brother. Take care of yourself.
Hey, anytime you need me, man, you got access to me. I'm always here. Anytime you need me to help or do anything, I'm here for you.
All right, man. Means a lot. And as always, go Lakers.
Go Mavs.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hustler's Handbook podcast. I hope you found today's episode as inspiring and insightful as I did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow hustlers. Keep pushing, keep striving, and remember, the hustle never stops. See you next time.